A black boy kicked out of car dealership. Next day, his billionaire mother's Rolls-Royce arrive. Why was a young black man falsely accused of theft just for trying to buy a car? When his billionaire tech CEO mother arrives in a Rolls-Royce demanding answers, they uncover the shocking truth. It wasn't random prejudice, but a calculated criminal scheme targeting and extorting minority youth. Subscribe, like, and listen now to hear their powerful fight for justice. The polished chrome gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights of Langley Motors, reflecting Jaden Brooks' hopeful, slightly nervous face. 18, dressed in his cleanest hoodie and jeans, he clutched a worn envelope containing the down payment check, hard-earned cash from his web design side hustle, saved for months to buy a reliable used car for his grandfather's upcoming 70th birthday. He spotted a likely candidate, a sensible four-door sedan in the certified pre-owned section, and moved towards it, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. As his fingers brushed the cool metal of the door handle, a voice sliced through the quiet showroom. "Whoa, hold on there, son. Lost your way." A salesman, Greg, with slicked-back hair and an unfriendly smirk, blocked his path, eyes sweeping over Jaden's casual attire with blatant disapproval. "This isn't a public thoroughfare. Customers only." Jaden recoiled slightly, but stood his ground. "I'm a customer. I'm interested in this sedan. I have a down payment." He started to reach for the envelope. Greg scoffed, stepping closer, invading Jaden's space. "Right. Look, kid, we don't need your kind casing the joint. Why don't you just move along before there's trouble?" "My kind—" Jaden felt a hot flush of anger rise, but he kept his voice steady. "I just want to look at the car. I have money." "Sure you do," Greg sneered. He took another aggressive step forward, deliberately bumping Jaden's shoulder, hard enough to make him stumble back. "Get out. Now, before I call security and tell them you're trying to lift something." His voice rose, attracting attention from other staff and a few browse customers. Humiliation washed over Jaden, quickly followed by indignation. He hadn't done anything. He opened his mouth to argue, to protest the injustice, but saw the cold certainty in Greg's eyes and the way other employees were now watching, wary but silent. He saw security guards near the entrance start to turn their heads. Arguing wouldn't help. It would only escalate things, make him look like the aggressor Greg wanted him to be. Swallowing his anger, Jaden backed away towards the glass doors, the salesman's hostile glare following him. He pushed through the doors into the Atlanta heat, heart pounding, the injustice stinging more than the physical shove. What just happened? Why was he treated like a criminal just for walking into a car dealership? Jaden Brooks navigated the world with a blend of youthful optimism and burgeoning awareness. At 18, he was a senior at one of Atlanta's competitive magnet schools, bright, well-liked, with a knack for technology nurtured by the school's coding club and his own freelance web design work. He lived with his mother in a comfortable, modern home in a quiet, affluent neighborhood a world away from the struggles many faced. Yet Jaden remained grounded, largely thanks to his close relationship with his grandfather, a retired mechanic living in a more modest part of the city. Saving up for his grandfather's birthday car was Jaden's own project, a way to show appreciation for the man who'd taught him so much. He understood that his life, cushioned by his mother's success, didn't shield him entirely from the realities of being a young black man in America. He'd experienced the subtle slights, the unwarranted scrutiny, but nothing as overtly hostile as the encounter at Langley Motors. His mother was Nia Brooks. In her early 40s, Nia was the powerhouse founder and CEO of NB Tech, a billion-dollar software and cybersecurity firm she had built from the ground up through sheer brilliance, grit, and relentless determination. She was a force in the tech world, respected for her innovation and feared for her sharp negotiating skills. having achieved immense success in a field often dominated by white men. Nia was acutely aware of the systemic biases and prejudices that existed. She had raised Jaden mostly on her own, fiercely protective, instilling in him confidence, resilience, and a strong sense of justice, while also preparing him, reluctantly, for the biases he might encounter. Their relationship was close, built on mutual respect and open communication, though Nia's demanding schedule often meant quality time was scheduled and precious. She had provided Jaden with every advantage, yet worried constantly about the dangers that privilege couldn't erase. NB Tech's gleaming headquarters, a marvel of sustainable architecture in Midtown Atlanta, stood in stark contrast to the established, old-money feel of places like Langley Motors, a luxury dealership known for its high prices and exclusive clientele located closer to the Buckhead area. Victor Langley, the owner, inherited the dealership and cultivated an image of traditional luxury and conservatism. While NB Tech championed diversity and innovation, Langley Motors operated within a more insular, perhaps less examined, bubble. Nia knew of Langley primarily by reputation a competitor in the broader Atlanta business scene, though not directly in her field, known for his arrogance and social climbing. She had no personal dealings with him, nor any reason to suspect anything more than standard dealership practices, however outdated or implicitly biased they might be. Jaden's world was one of opportunity shaped by his mother's success, yet still intersecting with persistent societal fault lines. He was learning to navigate the space between his potential and others' perceptions. The incident at Langley Motors left Jaden shaken and deeply angry. It wasn't just the rudeness. It was the immediate assumption of wrongdoing based on nothing but his appearance, the casual way Greg had threatened to involve security and accuse him of theft. He walked away quickly, not wanting to give Greg or the approaching security guards any further ammunition. Once clear of the dealership, he ducked into a nearby coffee shop, hands trembling slightly as he pulled out his phone. He typed a message to his mother, keeping it brief, trying to control the tremor in his voice even via text. Mom, had a really bad experience at Langley Motors on Peachtree. Salesman kicked me out, basically accused me of trying to steal. Said he was calling security. I left. Just wanted you to know. I am okay. Nia Brooks was in the middle of a tense virtual negotiation with an international client when her phone buzzed with a notification. Seeing Jaden's name, she excused herself momentarily, her brow furrowing as she read the text. Her blood ran cold. Jaden being accused of theft? Kicked out? Security called? Every protective instinct flared. She knew Jaden, he was responsible, polite, not confrontational unless provoked. For him to be treated this way, for him to be scared enough to text her immediately rage, cold and sharp, pierced through her professional composure. She quickly finished her call, her mind already shifting gears. She called Jaden immediately. Jaden? Talk to me. What exactly happened? He recounted the story, his voice tight with suppressed anger and humiliation, emphasizing Greg's hostility and the baseless accusation. Nia listened intently, her anger solidifying into icy resolve. This wasn't just poor customer service. It was blatant profiling, potentially escalating into a false accusation that could have serious consequences for Jaden. Where are you now? She asked. Coffee shop down the street, he replied. Stay there. I'm canceling my afternoon. I'll meet you there in 30 minutes, Nia said, her voice calm but steely. Her initial goal was clear: ensure Jaden was unharmed, legally and emotionally. Then, demand accountability from Langley Motors. This required more than just a phone call. It required a demonstration. She decided almost instantly on the approach for the following day: the Rolls-Royce, the power suit, Jaden beside her, presenting an undeniable refutation of the prejudice he faced. It wasn't just about defending her son. It was about challenging the assumptions that led to his mistreatment. Jaden, meanwhile, felt a confusing mix of relief that his mother was coming and lingering shame from the incident. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet he felt somehow tainted by the accusation. His goal was simpler. He wanted the salesman, Greg, and the dealership owner to acknowledge they were wrong, to understand the injustice of their actions. He wanted an apology, not just for himself, but for the principle of the thing. When Nia arrived at the coffee shop, projecting calm strength, he felt a measure of reassurance, but the anger and humiliation still churned beneath the surface. He readily agreed to her plan for the next day, wanting Langley and Greg to see who they had messed with. The pearl-white Rolls-Royce Cullinan purred to a stop directly in front of Langley Motors, its imposing presence drawing immediate attention. Nia Brooks emerged, radiating an aura of command in a sharply tailored power suit. Jaden followed, dressed in a crisp suit Nia had insisted he wear, feeling a mix of apprehension and defiant pride. They entered the showroom. Greg, the salesman from yesterday, froze mid-sentence with another customer, his eyes widening in recognition and shock as Nia fixed him with a glacial stare. Before Greg could react, Victor Langley hurried over, his face plastered with a salesman's practice smile, clearly recognizing Nia Brooks, the CEO of NB Tech. MS. Brooks, an honor to have you visit Langley Motors. To what do we owe the pleasure? Pleasure is not the word, Mr. Langley, Nia stated, her voice cutting through the showroom's hushed atmosphere. Yesterday, your employee, she gestured towards a pale Greg, forcibly ejected my son from this dealership and falsely accused him of attempted theft, apparently based solely on his appearance. Langley's smile faltered. He shot a venomous look at Greg before turning back to Nia, adopting a tone of deep concern. MS. Brooks, I am appalled. There must be some misunderstanding. Greg, what is the meaning of this? Greg stammered, trying to defend himself, claiming Jaden had been acting suspiciously, that he was just following procedure. Jaden spoke up, calmly but firmly describing exactly what had happened, his voice gaining confidence under his mother's steady gaze. Nia cut through the excuses. Mr. Langley, this reflects poorly on your entire operation. The blatant profiling, the aggression, the false accusation, it's unacceptable. I require a formal apology from both you and your employee, and I want to know what disciplinary actions you intend to take. Langley, seeing the potential PR nightmare and perhaps intimidated by Nia's presence, offered profuse apologies, assuring her Greg would be severely reprimanded. The apology fell hollow, expedient. Nia, sensing his lack of genuine remorse and recalling Jaden's mention of the security threat, pushed further. I'd also like to review your security footage from yesterday afternoon to ensure my son's account is fully understood. Langley immediately became defensive. Our security footage is for internal purposes only, MS. Brooks, confidential. His refusal felt disproportionate, raising Nia's suspicions. What was he hiding? As they were leaving, Jaden noticed another young black man, well-dressed, being treated dismissively by a different salesman near the service department. He caught the young man's eye, who gave a small, frustrated shake of his head. It was a fleeting moment, but it reinforced Jaden's feeling that his experience wasn't isolated. He mentioned it quietly to Nia as they got back into the Rolls-Royce. Nia's mind was racing. Langley's defensiveness about the footage, combined with Jaden's observation, suggested a potential pattern. Was the dealership actively hostile towards black customers, or was there something more specific, more sinister at play? Greg's fears seemed directed more at Langley than at her. Was Greg acting on orders? Something isn't right here, Nia murmured, her strategic brain kicking into high gear. This feels bigger than one racist salesman. She decided against immediate legal action or media exposure. That would put Langley on high alert. Instead, she opted for a covert approach. Back at NB Tech headquarters, she contacted her chief security officer, a former FBI agent, and tasked him with initiating a discreet background investigation into Victor Langley, Greg, and Langley Motors, focusing on customer complaints, financial irregularities, and any patterns of discriminatory practices. She also asked her legal team to research similar incidents reported at other businesses in the area. Langley was now aware of Nia's displeasure and likely her resources, meaning he might take steps to cover any tracks. Proving systemic discrimination or a potential scam required more than anecdotal evidence. Jaden, while wanting justice, felt sidelined by the shift from personal confrontation to corporate investigation. The stakes were escalating from demanding an apology to potentially uncovering a significant, possibly criminal, enterprise. The initial investigation yielded frustratingly little concrete evidence. Langley Motors had a clean record with the Better Business Bureau, and while online reviews contained scattered complaints about arrogant staff or high prices, there was no obvious pattern of racial discrimination or false accusations rising to the level Nia suspected. Langley's personal finances seemed robust but legally structured. Greg, the salesman, had some minor debts, but nothing extraordinary. It seemed Langley ran a tight, if unpleasant, ship. Nia felt stymied. Had she overreacted? Was it truly just an isolated incident of prejudice amplified by Langley's arrogance? Jaden grew restless, feeling the injustice keenly and urging his mother to take more direct action, sue the dealership, expose them publicly. The turning point came from Jaden himself. Still bothered by the incident and the brief encounter with the other young man, he started digging online, not into corporate records, but into social forums, community message boards, and local Atlanta subreddits. He searched for variations of Langley Motors complaint, dealership discrimination Atlanta, false accusation car salesman. He sifted through dozens of unrelated posts until he found a thread started 6 months earlier on a local forum titled, "Weird Experience at Langley Motors. Anyone else?" The original poster, anonymous, described being accused of damaging a car he was test driving, pressured aggressively by the salesman, matching Greg's description, and the owner, Langley, to pay an exorbitant repair fee on the spot to avoid having the police called. Several other anonymous commenters chimed in with similar stories. Accusations of scratching paint, dinging a door, or even attempting theft, always targeting young men, disproportionately black men. Crucially, several commenters mentioned being pressured to pay cash settlements directly to Langley or his manager to make the problem go away, often under threat of arrest or having their parents contacted. Jaden printed out the entire thread, his hands shaking with excitement and anger. He rushed to show Nia. "Mom, look, it wasn't just me. It's a pattern. It sounds like they're shaking people down." Nia read through the posts, her blood running cold. The fragmented stories, the specific details, the targeting of young black men, the pressure for cash settlements, it painted a picture far uglier than simple prejudice. This looked like a calculated, predatory extortion scheme, using false accusations and racial bias as weapons. Langley wasn't just a bigot. He was potentially running a criminal racket under the guise of a luxury dealership. This anonymous forum thread, unearthed by Jaden, provided the context and pattern that the formal investigation had missed. It revealed the likely motive behind Greg's actions and Langley's defensiveness. It suggested a potentially widespread, illegal operation preying on vulnerable individuals. This discovery shifted everything. Nia now knew she was dealing with deliberate, systemic criminality, not just bad behavior. The danger felt far more real. If Langley was running an extortion racket, he wouldn't hesitate to silence threats. Her goal transformed instantly and irrevocably. It was no longer about Jaden's specific incident or even general discrimination. It was about dismantling a criminal enterprise and bringing Victor Langley to justice for potentially dozens of victims. She looked at Jaden, his face alight with righteous anger. "You found it, Jaden," she said, her voice filled with a new, steely determination. "You found the real story. Now, we need to prove it carefully." The point of no return was clear. They had uncovered a dangerous secret, and simply walking away was no longer an option. They had to expose Langley, whatever the risk. The forum thread became the key, the Rosetta Stone for Nia's investigators. Armed with the specific allegations, false damage claims, theft accusations, pressure for cash settlements, they refocused their efforts. The PIs were tasked with identifying and discreetly contacting the anonymous posters from the forum, a painstaking process involving digital forensics and careful outreach. The legal team began researching extortion laws and potential civil rights violations, building a framework for a larger case. Nia realized they needed more than just anonymous online accounts. They needed verifiable victims willing to speak and, ideally, inside information. The focus returned to Greg, the salesman. If this was an organized scheme, Greg was likely following orders, potentially under duress himself, given his nervous demeanor and Langley's controlling presence. Nia and Jaden discussed strategy. Direct confrontation had failed. Covert investigation was progressing slowly. How could they accelerate things, get concrete proof before Langley caught wind and shut down or destroyed evidence? Jaden, emboldened by his discovery, suggested a risky idea born from his tech background and the stories on the forum. What if we could record him? What if someone went in, pretending to be a potential victim, and got Langley or Greg admitting to the shakedown? Nia was hesitant. It sounded like entrapment, legally dubious and potentially dangerous. But Jaden's idea sparked another thought. What if they could encourage an existing victim, identified through the forum or PI work, to make a recorded follow-up call to Greg or Langley, discussing their previous settlement under the guise of needing paperwork or clarification? This would be legal if the caller consented to the recording, one-party consent state, depending on location, which Georgia is. The PIs managed to identify and cautiously approach ATL_driver 87, one of the forum posters who had described paying $500 cash to Greg after being falsely accused of scraping a bumper during a test drive 3 months prior. He was young, scared of repercussions, but angry about the injustice. After assurances of legal support and anonymity from Nia's team, he agreed to make a recorded call to Greg. The call was tense. ATL_driver 87, coached by Nia's legal team, claimed his insurance needed proof the damage fee was paid. Greg was initially evasive, clearly uncomfortable. But under persistent, careful questioning, "Look, man, I just need something showing I paid you and Mr. Langley cash for that scratch, remember? So insurance doesn't think I'm lying," Greg eventually cracked, admitting, yeah, Langley handles that cash stuff. "Just tell him it was a misunderstanding, sort it out internally. Okay? Don't make waves." While not a full confession of the scheme, it was crucial, an admission of taking unreported cash, Langley's involvement, and clear instructions to keep quiet, strong evidence of covering up an irregular transaction. This recording, combined with affidavits from ATL_driver 87 and another victim the PIs located, plus the pattern analysis, gave Nia enough leverage. She decided against confronting Langley directly again. Instead, her team compiled a comprehensive evidence package. Jaden, while proud of his contribution, felt impatient. He wanted Langley punished now. Nia counseled patience, explaining the need for an airtight case to ensure conviction and prevent Langley from using legal loopholes. She also worried about Jaden's safety, limiting his direct involvement from this point forward, which frustrated him, but which he grudgingly accepted. Nia herself grappled with the ethics of using her immense resources against Langley, ensuring her team stayed within legal boundaries despite her personal outrage. The plan was now clear: present the evidence package directly to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, specifically to a prosecutor known for tackling complex fraud and potential civil rights cases. They would bypass lower-level police reports, going straight for a high-level investigation armed with credible evidence of a pattern of extortion targeting minority youth. This was riskier than a civil suit, but offered the only path to true criminal justice and stopping Langley for good. Nia's legal team secured a meeting with an assistant district attorney, Elena Ramirez, known for her tenacity and interest in economic justice cases. They presented the evidence meticulously: Jaden's initial incident report, the forum threat analysis, the affidavits from ATL_driver 87 and another victim, corroborated by PI work, Greg's recorded phone call admitting the cash payment and Langley's involvement, and preliminary financial analysis suggesting irregularities in the dealership's cash flow. ADA Ramirez listened intently, her expression growing serious. While the evidence was compelling, she noted it was still largely circumstantial regarding a wider conspiracy directed by Langley. Greg's recording was damning, but didn't explicitly mention extortion or framing. To secure indictments for a systemic scheme, they needed something more direct, linking Langley to the pattern, or they needed Greg to cooperate fully and testify. Ramirez agreed to open a formal investigation, but cautioned it would take time and Langley might fight it fiercely. This initiated a tense waiting period. Nia knew Langley would likely be alerted once the DA's office started issuing subpoenas or interviewing employees. She increased security for Jaden and herself, aware that a cornered Langley might become desperate. Langley, indeed, got wind of the investigation, likely through his own lawyers responding to initial inquiries from the DA. His reaction was swift and aggressive. He fired Greg, presumably to silence him or set him up as a scapegoat. He launched a preemptive PR counterattack, leaking stories portraying Nia Brooks as a corporate bully using her wealth to persecute a smaller businessman over a minor customer service issue involving her delinquent son. He hired a high-powered criminal defense firm known for scorched earth tactics. The pressure mounted. The DA's investigation proceeded, but Langley's lawyers threw up roadblocks, challenging subpoenas, delaying interviews. The victims contacted by Nia's team grew nervous under the public scrutiny and potential intimidation from Langley's associates. Greg, now jobless and terrified, went underground, refusing contact even from Nia's lawyers offering protection. It seemed Langley might successfully stonewall the investigation, reducing it to a he-said/she said between Jaden and a fired salesman, with the extortion evidence remaining murky. Nia faced her dark night of the soul. Had she pushed too hard, too fast? Would Langley get away with it, leaving a trail of victims and potentially ruining Jaden's reputation with a delinquent label? Was her wealth, in fact, becoming a liability, painting her as the aggressor? She felt the weight of responsibility not just for Jaden, but for the other young men Langley had targeted. Failure felt imminent. Jaden, seeing his mother's stress and frustrated by his own helplessness, decided on a desperate gamble. He still had Greg's personal cell number, obtained during the PI investigation. He knew trying to contact Greg was risky, potentially violating witness tampering laws if done improperly, but he felt compelled to try. He sent Greg a simple, anonymous text from a burner app. Running won't help. Langley will bury you. There's still time to tell the truth. Think about it. He didn't expect a reply. But Greg, isolated, jobless, and terrified of both Langley and prison, was at his breaking point. Jaden's text, perhaps reminding him of the initial injustice against the kid, tipped the scales. Late that night, Greg contacted ADA Ramirez through the lawyer Nia's team had initially offered him. He was ready to cooperate fully, offering detailed testimony about Langley orchestrating the entire extortion scheme, targeting specific demographics, and directing the cash shakedowns in exchange for immunity or a significantly reduced sentence. Final preparations. ADA Ramirez immediately moved to secure Greg's testimony under oath and ensure his safety. With Greg's detailed proffer, she now had the direct evidence needed. Warrants for Langley's arrest and a search of the dealership's financial records were drafted, ready for a judge's signature. The climax was set. The climax arrived not with a bang, but with the quiet, efficient machinery of the justice system finally grinding into gear, powered by Greg's cooperation. Armed with detailed testimony and supporting evidence corroborated by Nia's investigation, ADA Ramirez secured arrest warrants for Victor Langley and search warrants for Langley Motors. Early the next morning, before the dealership officially opened, teams from the Fulton County DA's office and local law enforcement converged on Langley Motors and Victor Langley's Buckhead residence simultaneously. Langley was arrested at his home without incident, his bluster evaporating in the face of handcuffs and grim-faced officers. At the dealership, investigators seized financial records, computer servers, and personnel files. Greg, already in protective custody, provided investigators with crucial passwords and pointed them towards hidden ledgers detailing the cash extortion payments, the smoking gun. The evidence was overwhelming. Victor Langley, the arrogant dealership owner who preyed on young black men, was caught, his criminal enterprise dismantled not by a dramatic showdown, but by meticulous investigation, a key witness flipping, and the determined pursuit of justice by Nia, Jaden, and the DA's office. Victor Langley, facing a mountain of evidence and Greg's damning testimony, eventually pleaded guilty to multiple counts of extortion, conspiracy, and wire fraud, receiving a significant prison sentence. The investigation revealed dozens of victims over several years, mostly young black men pressured into paying cash to avoid trumped-up charges. Langley Motors was forced into bankruptcy, its assets liquidated. Nia Brooks, working through her foundation and alongside civil rights attorneys, established a restitution fund using proceeds from a successful civil suit against Langley's estate and the dealership's remaining assets, ensuring the identified victims receive compensation and apologies. Greg received a reduced sentence for his cooperation. The ordeal profoundly impacted Jaden. The initial humiliation gave way to a steely resolve and a deeper understanding of systemic injustice. He became an advocate, sharing his story carefully with his mother's guidance to raise awareness. Nia, witnessing Jaden's courage and maturity, channeled her resources with renewed purpose. Instead of buying the dealership, she partnered with Atlanta's technical colleges and community centers to launch the Jaden Initiative, a major expansion of free vocational training programs focused on automotive technology, cybersecurity, and entrepreneurship specifically for minority youth in underserved neighborhoods. Jaden eventually got the car for his grandfather, a reliable, modest sedan they picked out together from an ethical dealership. But the experience changed his trajectory. While still interested in tech, he now focused on how it could be used for social good developing apps to help citizens report discrimination or access legal aid. Nia, while still leading in B-Tech, dedicated significantly more time to philanthropy focused on economic justice and civil rights. Their relationship, tested by the crisis, emerged stronger, built on shared purpose. Months later, attending the opening of a new Jaden Initiative training center, Nia watched Jaden talking animatedly with the first cohort of students. "You turned something ugly into something hopeful," Nia told him, her voice thick with pride. Jaden met her gaze. "We did, Mom. Together." The darkness they faced hadn't broken them. It had ignited a lasting light for their community.